Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. In today's video we are going to be doing another update of Baltimore Thurgood International Airport. We have a couple new aircraft in today's update along with a new airline which will be starting service to Baltimore in the coming weeks. But before we get onto that, I think we're just going to get started off here with a new aircraft for today's update. Here we have this Atlas Boeing 767-300 and this aircraft has just arrived in from Ramstein. Ramstein is an Air Force base in Germany, and these Atlas aircraft, both the 747 and the 767, are constantly flying backwards and forwards between Ramstein and Baltimore, along with other destinations similar to Ramstein. But it is nice that we finally have an Atlas aircraft in these Baltimore updates because, of course, Atlas do fly a lot into Baltimore, so it's nice to now be able to represent them. Next up here, we then have a FedEx Boeing 757-200. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Indianapolis. We then have a FedEx Boeing 767-300. He's going to be heading out to Memphis today. We then have another new aircraft. Here we have the Spirit Airbus A320. This aircraft is going to be heading out to Dallas-Fort Worth in Texas after arriving in from Fort Lauderdale in Florida. Then next up here we have this Spirit Airbus A320 Neo. He's arrived in from Cancun, Mexico, and is going to be heading out to Las Vegas in Nevada. Then next up here we have this Delta Connection Embraer 170. He's going to be heading over to Boston in Massachusetts. Then next up here we have this Delta 757-200. Delta have been sending the 752 into Baltimore, which is really nice to see. It's just nice to see a bit of variation and a really cool plane like the 757. But this aircraft is going to be heading out to Atlanta in Georgia. We then have this United Boeing 737-800. He's going to be heading over to Denver in Colorado. Then next up here we have this Frontier Airbus A321. He's going to be heading down to Miami in Florida. Then finally for this terminal here we have this American Eagle Embraer 175. He's going to be heading over to Chicago O'Hare in Illinois. Then next up here we have this British Airways Boeing 787-8. He is of course going to be heading over to London Heathrow. Then next up, moving along to Southwest, here we have this Southwest Airlines 737-700 in the heart color scheme. He's arrived in from Phoenix, Arizona, and is going to be heading out to Boston in Massachusetts. We then have the Southwest Airlines 737-800 again in the heart livery. He's arrived in from Orlando in Florida, and is going to be heading out to San Juan in Puerto Rico. Then here we have this Southwest Airlines Boeing 737-800, this time in the Canyon Blue color scheme. He's just arrived in from Chicago Midway in Illinois, and is going to be heading out to Houston in Texas. We then have the Southwest Airlines 737 MAX 8. He's arrived in from Austin in Texas and is going to be heading out to Miami in Florida. We then have the Southwest Airlines Boeing 737-700 in the Missouri 1 color scheme. He's arrived in from Fort Myers in Florida and is going to be heading out to Atlanta in Georgia. And then finally here for the gates, here we have another Southwest Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 8. He's arrived in from San Antonio in Texas and is going to be heading out to Denver in Colorado. Then next up here, taxiing out to the runway, here we have this Icelandair Boeing 737 MAX 8 in the older color scheme. He is of course going to be heading out to Reykjavik, Keflavik in Iceland, and Icelandair have now switched to an all year round service. Before this they were operating summer seasonally into Baltimore, but now I guess as a counter to Play, because Play operate to Keflavik all year round, so I guess as a counter to them, Icelandair have now announced they will be serving Baltimore all year round. So that's pretty cool. I'm definitely not complaining because it's more kind of variation and more international service. We get into Baltimore all year round now. And then next up here we have a brand new airline for Baltimore. Here we have this Copa Airlines Boeing 737-800, and he has just arrived in from Panama City in Panama. Copa will be starting service to Panama City on June 28th, so that is really exciting. Of course, Copa also fly into Washington Dulles, so it's pretty interesting now we have both Icelandair, Play, British Airways, and now Copa flying into both Washington Dulles and Baltimore Thurgood. And just like that, that does conclude today's update of Baltimore Thurgood International Airport. I hope you enjoyed, and with that, I want to thank you very much for watching today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.